Hi,
How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
This is so exciting. So, Liv is just like such a gem of a human. Before we kind of like dive into everything, I would love if you could just like introduce yourself, like where you're from, what your vibe is, what you do. I like to ask people their like sun, moon, and rising, and your kind of like overall human design things, because my audience likes to profile people.
Well, it's true. I mean, you know so much about someone as soon as they say all that. So, like, I got it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
My name's Liv. I'm a nervous system and wealth energetics expert, really helping women step into not only relaxed nervous system, but really the cup runneth over a full life in all areas, not just your business, but your relationships and everything outside of that. So everything is an overflow. I am a 5-1 self-projected projector, which tells you a lot about that 5 line.
That
And
five line, baby. We know that one through and through over here.
as soon as you hear a 5 line, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. I am a Sag Sun, Taurus Moon, and Sag Rising. So I got a double Sag.
Why did I think you were a Leo sun?
Do I
Oh,
come off as a Leo Sun? I'm a Sag. I'm a double
well, I
Sag.
knew it was fire. Okay. Well, I'm a Sag moon. I have lots of Sag. Well, lots of fire, period. Okay, so cool. Now I know. Your Sag sun, what was your rising?
Sag rising and then a Taurus moon. So the Taurus moon is like my grounded, really loving the aesthetics of life, which I do. Like my Taurus moon gets, we love luxury, we love vibes, hence why I love you. I don't know. We resonate on the same kind of level. So yeah, the Taurus
And
moon kind of,
my Venus is in Taurus. Or why would you know that? Now you know my
now
Venus
I
is in
know.
Taurus.
Oh, okay.
So it's always, whenever I hear a client's like profile, I'm like, it's always meant to be. It's always so clear, no matter whether they kind of like have some similar placements or it's like opposite to me and kind of like wanting to activate more of that in. Like it's so cool to like know these things about people.
Well, it's definitely why I love your fire. 100%. It's like fire meets fire.
I mean, I like that vibe too. So good. Okay. So, how did you get into like what you do today? Like, what is a little bit of just like your human backstory and how you wound up in your business? I'm not even sure, when did you start your business?
2020, like
Okay.
right at
So
the start of
many.
the pandemic. Right.
Yeah.
Right at the
Same.
start. I feel like I've lived lifetime, so I'm gonna condense it because I feel like what I've explained might be like 50 years of someone else's life. So yeah, I started my business in 2020 after graduating from naturopathic school, writing my board exams, kind of finishing all of that. But I definitely knew that I didn't want to go the in-person private practice route where you just see one-on-one people all day. I had done that for my clinical placement. So I already knew that that was like draining and the income cap. And I was just like, I'm not here for an income cap where I'm just seeing one-on-one patients. So I already knew off the bat that I wasn't going to go into that more traditional route. So based on the fact that I had been sharing healthy recipes and health tips all throughout my journey, I moved into like helping people through online, through like different programs with healthy eating, cutting out gluten, cutting out sugar, balancing their hormones, and doing a lot of that. And then it was through that I actually realized that it goes so much deeper than just, yes, supplements are great. We want to be eating right, but all of the emotional nervous system stuff that actually affects physical health way beyond what we realize. And that was because I had come from 10 years of chronic symptoms, fatigue, acne, PMS, PCOS, like you name it, heart palpitations. I would pass out in school. Like I remember passing out in the middle of school several times. Like there's so
Wow.
much going on. And that made me want to become a naturopath so I could heal it. And it got better, but it never fully resolved. And so I was like, my one line in human design, like, there's an answer here. Like, let's figure something out. So I'm always someone who wants to like dive deeper. And I was like, okay, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, no seed oils. I move my body. I do this. Like, why do I still have all these symptoms? Like, it doesn't actually make sense. I've been doing all the things, all the protocols, IVs, cleanses, parasites, detoxes. I mean, you name it, I'd done it. And then I was exposed to the world of trauma healing and the fact that we have trauma in our bodies and emotions get stuck and they're stored in our system. I felt like, wow, the clouds kind of parted. And I was like, this is amazing, because once I did that, I feel like I finally discovered the missing piece as to the fact that our health isn't just physical. There's also the emotional, energetic component. So I feel like that opened me up. I brought that kind of into my world and the work that I did with people in terms of like the energetic root cause of this, the emotional root cause of this. Like it's the conflict from your dad. It's, you know, the stuff you have with your mom. It's the anger you have built up. It's your lack of self-worth. And it was actually through working through all of my traumas that my symptoms dissolved within a few weeks, like less than a month, 2 to 3 weeks. And they never came back. And I was like, oh my God, why did I not learn this in naturopathic school? Why is no one talking about this? And I decided to really bridge together all of like my knowledge with like supplements and medicinals and all of those wonderful things with also nourishing your emotional and energetic body and taking care of your nervous system. So I did that for a few years, maybe until last year, until we got into you brought into my world. We went into Jocelyn's world. And through that, I really fell in love even more, not just with how the nervous system affected your health, because by then, once I'd resolved my symptoms, I was like, what else? And I discovered how the nervous system literally rules your life. It rules your relationships. It rules how much money you make, the success you have in your business. Yes, your body, but it's your response, you know, to friendships. It's your response to a potential mate, like everything. I was like, wow, I'm like, this is the answer to everything. So then from there, I was like, I don't want to just help someone. Yes, their nervous system can make them not feel bloated anymore, but it's also going to make you a lot of money. You're going to heal your money shit. It's also going to give you the most like nourishing relationship because you're not going to be anxiously attached anymore. So you'll actually be able to receive that. And I was like, oh my God, nervous system is key. That's what I want to do. Everyone with their nervous system. So we did that. And then, you know, most recently we've kind of pivoted and focused and really realized that I'm ready to step away from a lot of like the health stuff. And, you know, it was great when I did it, but now I really want to help women beyond that. And I was like, there's something more beyond just clearing your symptoms. I remember when I was exposed to something beyond clearing your symptoms, where that's no longer the biggest thing, but it's like the money that's available, the wealth that's available, the joy that's available, the relaxation that's available, the relationships that are available, everything else that's also available beyond just that. And so that's what we've kind of pivoted into in 2024.
I love it. This is so cool. And it's like, I am just such a big fan of like these kind of like quote unquote alternative ways of going about like business and wealth creation. And like, we all kind of like have a different place in the market in terms of like what we teach and the way that we teach it. But I think that what you offer is just like so important because, and I think that people sometimes underestimate it and they kind of not underestimate the work, but aren't even necessarily aware to where their nervous system is genuinely running the show and they're calling it something else, or like normalizing anxiety, normalizing not feeling good about yourself, normalizing like, oh, well, it's just hard. I'm an entrepreneur, or like, and I get that like sometimes we're learning new things and things do feel a little challenging, but there's a difference between like, okay, I'm learning something new and keep going at it versus actually having like a emotional response to anything that is happening in your company. And something that I always say to you, and I've always said, I'm like, your solid power is like embodied on a level that I can think of like 2 other people where I've ever seen it. Like it is absolutely your biggest level of embodiment. And it's most people's like biggest work. And it really showcases in your ability to receive mentorship, to try new things, to make pivots, to take feedback, to allow yourself to be like a quote unquote beginner when we're like, okay, I used to do things like this. Oh, wait, we're doing it like this now. Okay, let's just go and see. And like, you don't really tell stories about things. And I really feel like it's a testament to the work. Cause I always say that like, you know, people ask me who moves the fastest and different things like that. I'm like, hey, obviously the people who are open to mentorship, yes, they're consistent and all these different things. And also like obviously doing the tangible things and easy to mentor, but there's also this component of like, they don't need to get on board with the capacity level that is required for being an entrepreneur. Like most people spend so much time on that and then they don't know why they haven't made millions of dollars. I'm like, you're not even in the ring yet. Like, of course not.
No, I agree. Because like they don't realize how much their nervous system like takes them out of the game, right? All those moments where you're getting dysregulated that, you drop your power. And yes, we can get like the feeling in our chest or the lump in our throat, like the somatic responses, but that takes up, yes, so much capacity, but so much time that you spend with that where you could be spending it building your company.
And even the mind stories to me, I'm like, you're not going to have like a calm body and a racing mind.
No, and then you're not going to get clarity. And then we get into like, oh, I can't be creative. I can't do this. And then I feel like when we play in limitations, the limitations tend to stack. Like it's never just one. It's like we tend to like stack them, but we have to get rid of
Yeah, I just think it's like such a cool line of work. And then the fact that you've brought it to business owners, because the reality is like we build careers playing in the unknown. It's literally how we do life is one foot in front of the other, opening doors we've never opened. It doesn't really, sometimes, sure, 10 people walk before you, sometimes not, doesn't really matter. You need to move anyway. And so we literally create our existence in the unknown when at its most kind of like rudimentary state, humans desire to kind of like stay the same, even though everything's always changing. Anything that is changed is perceived as lack of safety. And so you really do have to have that internal capacity to keep going. And then also not think that like, oh yeah, just keep going, but I'm gonna be like stressed out and anxious the whole time. Well, like then when is that gonna change?
and then like your energy's contracted even still. So anything that you do is from that contracted, limited space. So then you're not even an open channel to receive the thing that you're pushing and forcing so hard to get anyways.
And I've just seen it so many times. And this is where I'm like, fuck yes to strategy. You know how deeply I believe in it. And I'm like, when you can be a powerful human next to it, is when we actually get results. Like
Yeah.
we need to be walking out both of these things like at the same time. And so I just love that you role model like this type of work and how important it is, because and then not just that, it's like, hey, you want to make the money, you want to have the relationship, you want to have the health, like you have to be able to keep your whole life high frequency. Like, and also when different things come up. So one area of life is not suffering for another, or like how people turn into making money means I can't do anything else, or I just fell in love. Now I can't grow a company, or I had a baby and now I don't know how to do social media. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't have time to where like people are always giving up one thing. I always joke. I'm like, women will be like, I want to have it all. And then as soon as they desire to have more spaciousness, they like give themselves a pay cut. I'm like, build a sustainable company and you won't have this problem. Like, what are you even talking about? That's a strategic thing. But to me, it's also a nervous system thing, because I'm like, the fact that you're even making this an option shows where your capacity is. Because if you'd actually done the internal work, one, this wouldn't even be an option. And you would be able to hold like, oh, okay, I'm just going to build more scalable and then also just go do what I want in my life. Like, why do those things not live together? Like, this was the whole point all along. Or else you just may as well like be a well-paid lawyer.
Exactly. And it doesn't come at a cost. Like you said, like the holding doesn't even feel like efforting. Like it gets to be effortless, but you have to learn how to be someone and like build that so that everything is full in all those areas. Yeah. But you're not thinking, well, it has to come at a cost. It means that I'm pushing. It means I'm that. Like I live a very relaxed and chill life, and like the areas of my life are flourishing. My health doesn't suffer because my business goes up or the business goes, this way, and the health, whatever. It's all gets to be amazing. And I don't think women will really give themselves A, the permission, but B, learn then how to become the woman where that happens. And that happens from the energy of lightness and ease.
100%. Because I always say that term, like, well, if we're efforting, something's still off, right? It's like, it just gets to be who you are. And like, that's the difference, where you get to a place where like, you're not trying, it just like is who you are. And that process is wildly sped up when we actually do the internal side of the work. So we're not trying to like override the system that still has all this other stuff going on. that like your body's literally screaming at you to make changes, right? And you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll just do a cold plunge. You know what I mean? And like, yay for cold plunging, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like people think like, oh, to have it all, it must be overwhelming. You must have to like manage a lot of your system and manage this. And like, there's no managing. And that's the thing, when you actually like embody it, like you said, it becomes who you are. It's no longer something you manage. It's just light because you are light, because you no longer operate with the dysregulation or the stories or the limitations or any of this that's already making you operate under that.
Yeah. So cool. Life changing for the women. Okay. So let's talk about when you came into my world. So what brought you my way?
You're
Do
fired?
you remember where you found me?
I was trying to think about this. Someone posted like a story about you. And I clicked, you were on someone's stories. I don't remember who. And I like something told me to click through. I don't normally click through people's stories, but it like,
yeah.
maybe you were on someone's, I don't even know. No, can't even think of the podcast. Someone, anyways. And I clicked through and I liked your vibe. And then I saw you had a podcast and then I binged your podcast. I think I listened to every episode in like a week.
You did? Oh, I love that.
Your energy was like, I need more. I need more of this woman. I need more. I need more. I need more. It was just something about like the way you speak the things. And I was like, yes, this is the woman, like our values matched. Like I already wasn't someone who operated under limitations, but like you also aren't that. So I know that you're someone that I want to like learn from and look up to versus someone who may operate from that. Like she's with me, we get to have it all. And she's going to show me like how to do it.
You're like, amazing. Sign me up. I love it. And that similar values piece is so important to me too. I'm like, I don't care how much money, like show me how you make the money.
Yeah.
Show me what's going on with your health. Are you in the hospital behind the scenes every 4 months? Because you guys would be surprised. Like a lot of times what happens behind the scenes is like not what you think it is. And I was like, when I remember learning that kind of early, and I was like, oh, this will never be me. I'm not going to be like sending myself to the hospital, sending boxer messages from the hospital bed. This is great. People do this.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, absolutely never. Like, that's wild. And it's so funny because, like, sort of like what I'm reflecting to you, I remember I was at different stages of my journey and they'd be like, you're really like, people would be surprised that I like wasn't dramatic behind the scenes. I don't mean clients, I mean like when I was in masterminds or had mentors and I was just like, yay, like vibing on life, like let's keep going. And I wasn't having like a meltdown every 5 minutes or like so stressed out. Like people reflect it back all the time. I'm like, why is this like surprising?
Well, I feel the same. I'm like, what do you mean surprise? I'll kind of teach on it, probably. Good thing
I know, right? I'm like, here I am on the internet teaching about money. I should probably like be pretty neutral about it, you know? And I'm not saying I never have any like growth edge. Of course I do. But I just didn't realize like the level of like just the roller coaster relationship to money, business, power that like is so normalized. And I was like, this is not, it might be common, not normal. Like we have other things to look at. So anyway, so I love that. And then the first program you joined, didn't you join Overflow first?
Yeah, I did. And I love your energy in that. I just we just love your energy. That's probably gonna be the theme of the
You're like, that's the answer to all my questions. Love the vibe.
well, because it's how you deliver, right? It's very like it's activating, it's to the point, it's direct, it's tangible, it's not fluff, it's yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were showing up in my dreams, I think when I messaged you about joining 888, I think I told you that you started showing up in my dreams.
Oh, really? I've had like so many of my spiritual, well, Liv is also very psychic, which we didn't talk about. Secret psychic in the building.
So yeah, you were coming up in my dreams and I was like, oh, well, that's a sign.
That is so funny. I've had other people tell me that too. And I think it's like so powerful. And then I remember even before you joined Femmepire, didn't you say that you asked to be shown like a blue circle, a blue,
Yeah.
what happens again?
I was on a walk and I was like, okay, am I going to do this? And then I was like, show me a giant blue circle. And I go on like basically the same walk every single day. And all of a sudden, like I look up within a matter of seconds, there's this giant blue circle that's never been there on this like metal thing. And I was like, this is random in the middle of the street and it's a giant blue circle. So I was like, okay, wonderful.
Like something that was like an actual tangible thing, or like something that you saw that like can't be explained?
Well, it's like some sort of, but it wasn't like I go on the same walk every day. It wasn't there before. Like some metal
Yeah.
blue thing that was like gonna be part of this fire hydrant thing. Like I don't know, but like it was a giant blue circle.
It's just so fucking cool. I love that.
There are so
Soul
many.
aligns.
Yeah, 100%.
So first, like 888 was so fun because I remember just, I mean, I think this was before you had really like pivoted, because I know we
Yeah.
kind of did a bigger pivot, obviously inside Fempire in these past few months. But I feel like 888 was like, you know how it's like such a fast, fun, like zippy space. And like that part I don't remember as well now, because that was like, because even now you've been in Fempire for 6 months. So that was like before that. But like you celebrated your, like, could you just share about kind of like your experience? Cause I also feel like things we quote, quote, worked on in 888 are different from like what we were focused on in Fempire.
Yeah, you're right. It feels like a other lifetime ago when I
It
think about
feels so long
December.
ago.
It's another lifetime. I know I really love, I have to think about this. I really love like the modules you had in there because I feel like I started getting momentum before we even started. And that's also when I remember I booked the call, the one-on-one call as well. I was like, I'm in 888. Do I need to like wait to see, or should I just like do this VIP week? And we did the VIP. You're like, just
Oh,
do
we
the
had the VIP week. I
yeah, and I just
forgot.
remember that. So I had the VIP because I was like, I'm not gonna wait for 888 to start as well. Like I was feeling called to the week. So I was like, sure, should I sign me up for a private? As you can see, I was all in. So we did the private week and then the 888 started. And I feel like that space was just a very much a jumping off point. Like it is zippy, like it is fast. The momentum that happens as soon as you join, I remember it was started even before we started 888 calls, just from like the modules, like things were picking up. I was like, oh my God, the momentum was building already. I remember like the cash that came in, like paid for itself before we even started 888, and just what we worked on in terms of building my ability to receive more of my business without doing more, and I kind of identifying those places where I may have been operating with more giving too much and not being compensated for like the level of proximity, and we kind of restructured that. And like that zoom I think with the refining the energy and kind of like the structure led to like the highest cash month I'd had since then, just from that alone, which was crazy.
And that was so cool. So that was your first 77K cash month, right?
Yeah.
And I love when the numbers happen like that. Like I remember my first 6-figure month was like 118888. And I was like, of course. Give me the repeating numbers and money all day long. That was so cool. And that's something I love about that space. Most of the time, what I hear is like, oh, yeah, I've already like sold out my launch, doubled my launch, all of this stuff. We haven't even done anything yet. Like, shows you the power of good content.
And I think also like your support with all like the little refinements that maybe people think that, little refinements don't do a lot. Like they did. Like as you can see, like they did a lot with what we like refined and the little shifts that we made. They all started to stack and compound.
100%. I think that part's interesting because I think people are like, oh, well, if someone told me that like these shifts just need to be on the internet, then I'll just go like, do you know what I mean? Like people see stuff on the internet and they like confuse it for mentorship and they think they'll just like go implement it. I'm like, no, this is like a personalized thing. It's like it's always the refinements growing. Sometimes there's a shift that we make that drastically grows the company. But I would say those happen less often than the refinements we make along the way that really can stack so quickly. And like in my mind, it's about like the personalization and having the support with that when it comes to like, really stacking big numbers.
I couldn't agree more because sometimes I feel like people see something on the internet and they go and implement it in their business for where they're at. And like it just doesn't make sense. So I feel like you're really good at identifying what it is that that personal business needs for where they are right now and where they're desiring to go. Because you can't just assume that because so and so is doing it, that and it's making them money, that you should like adopt it into your business and you do it, because it may not make sense, or there's like deeper reasoning that you don't see behind it, that's why they're doing it. And so like the personalization is like unmatched.
And also like you don't see what like you just see what's going on front of house. You have no idea how that person's running the business behind it. So many of my sales happen behind the scenes. You would have no idea what I'm doing behind the scenes if you're just trying to like digest what I say on social media, and also like how to get it to work. And I think there's so much mastery that people underestimate when it comes to content, when it comes to strategy, when it comes to positioning, when it comes to our offer stack. Like, yes, everything's always going to come down to kind of like sales system, like content, offer strategy, in addition to like personal power, money vibes, wealth energetics, all the things. And it's like, it's not that it's complicated, but it's like you have to have precision with the tweaks for them to yield you the result. That's what it is, more than just like thinking about the big concept. Like sometimes that helps us get our brain around the areas to focus on, but it's really like the shifts. And I feel like then what were you just like, okay, yay, this was fun, let's join Fempire? Because we didn't talk that much about it. You were just like, okay, cool.
Well, I wasn't going to stop there. Go into mentorship for 2 months and then tap out and be like, I'm done. Bye.
Well, you know, some people.
I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
I know. I'm the same way. So then you came in, and I feel like what's been so cool in Fempire is like, obviously I've been able to get to know you better, right? It's a very like intimate space, which, as you know, like I really like for my closest proximity mastermind. And I would just love to hear from your perspective, kind of like what's been valuable to you, what's been helpful to you. And like, I also want to, before we dive into that, give Liv like so much credit, because as she brought her, it was like really more recent that you brought your nervous system and energetics work to, particularly to the business world. And most of the time when people pivot their niche like that, it becomes a drama. And this is where like having the support for how to do that seamlessly is so pivotal. And obviously like you as a human carried the good weight of that so that it didn't turn into a drama. And we're just very easy to mentor around it. But like you switched your niche and did not have an income dip. And even more than that, you built more momentum. And I remember like you shared that you made money every single day in March, which is like, this is what we want the business to be doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the pivot was 2.5 months ago, where like I fully like, no, hard pivot. We're not like driving in between the lanes. We're picking a lane. And yeah, we made money every day in March. We're pretty much almost every day in April. There wasn't a dip, and we've only grown, and we're still up since the last time I think I told you. We're still going up because I was just not available. And that's the thing. I know you're the woman, like I was never going to be available for that, but I just wanted like, all right, how are we not going to do that? Like, what's the implementation? And I feel like you really supported that, because I had like the mindset that it's not going to happen, but it's like, okay, how do we make sure that's not going to happen?
And I love that you say that too, because it's like we can be real fucking solid people, but we still need to be shown the way. You know what I mean? Like you can, I always say, I'm like, you can be the most potent bitch in the room, but like eventually you start to cap if you can't strategically back that, right? So that potency can like actually show up in the company. Then you can be like the most strategic person in the room, but eventually you'll plateau too if you don't upgrade your power, right? And so they always like need to dance together. And I remember like something that meant so much to me that you thanked me for, and you were like, no one has ever helped me this much with like the actual like, because you know we go deep like in terms of like our strategies, the sales system, the content, like different types of positioning, different types of content, like all these things that you can do with your sales system, like yada yada yada. Like, you know, we really definitely like get down in the weeds just as much as like we're also down to have like an energetic fuck the matrix, you know, whatever we need to talk talk about conversation. We're still all witches in Fempire. But we do like get down to business. And it was like that meant a lot to me, because I'm someone where I'm like, guys, there is a how. Like there really is a how. This isn't just about holding the fucking vibes through your launch. Let's tangibly set you up to keep up the momentum in your launches. Like, why do we think, like, do you think Amazon was built by like Jeff Bezos just sitting in his power? Like, come on.
And I think that's why I said like it is literally unmatched, because like I have the good mindset, like I know about the energetics, but like you are hands deep where like, oh, this is business. Like I think this might be the first business mentorship I've had where like we're hands deep in like what it takes to grow a company. It's like wow. I mean, it can be a lot, but it's wow.
It can be a lot, but it's
I take it like, all right, we're going. Like there's those moments, but yeah, like the depth that you go to and like the specificity where you don't just tell like, not that I would need to, but you're not like hold the power, like it'll happen, like it'll all add up. You're like, no, this is how we're gonna make it all add up. Like this is the how.
Yeah,
And it's
I'm
just
like,
like,
why is this so? I've heard this from so many clients. They're like, oh my God, I think this is the first business mentorship I've ever had. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, we need to like up level what is happening in the industry because we're building companies. And it's so interesting because so many people started when you and I started. And you know how I always say, I'm like, but have you thought about 10 years from now? And how I joke, do you want to be 75 in a Telegram chat on Zoom calls? I don't think so. Right. So, one, there's like making more money. Yes. But also, like, how are we scaling you out over time to where anything that you do that is hands on is like just because you want to, but not because you have to. Like, I'm just such a big proponent of the power of choice. And like, you're going to hit different phases of life. Like, don't you want it to be where if you're like, yeah, I just want to like be with my partner or have babies or whatever, that like you're already good to go for that, you know? And it's not about not loving our clients. I'm obsessed with my proximity clients, but you'll never see me being the woman on the internet flexing how there's 30 people in my mastermind. I'm like, I'm going to talk to you about how there's 100 people in a masterclass and getting, you know, mid to get paid spaces to 60 people and beyond. And like how I can take one low ticket offer and sell out the rest of my product suite from it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm always looking at like, well, as you know, I have a very strategic brain, but it's like, I'm always looking at, okay, like how would we scale up and scale out? But not because I don't want to be here, but because like I'm growing a company. What the hell else would I be doing? You know?
And I think that for me, like it was so pivotal because like I'd still made a lot of money up until that point, but like it was very much on energy and vibes and like things like that. But what it actually takes to go to that next level, we like you need like a Jocelyn in there who is like showing you the how, like teaching that there is a methodology. It doesn't just like fall from the sky. And yes, we're in our power and energetics, but like no, there is a strategic element to like actually growing a company, which is
Like
very
a
different
real
than like
one.
20K months on the vibe and an energy of like, woo, cash influx. And it's like, no, we're building like a sustainable, long term, not like up and down, not roller coaster, and like what that takes. And having someone to support you in doing that is like unmatched.
And then also too, it's like a different level, I feel, of like owning your genius, right? So it
Mhm.
tends to be that like, and I feel like you had this experience as well, where it's like, we know what we're good at. It's not about like not knowing or like not even valuing yourself, but it's like to go into, you know, we're designing stuff in like 100K months, like 7-figure years, multiple figure years beyond, right? You are, and like, and that's just the fucking beginning. I'm like, there are 8-figure and 9-figure companies. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just beginning to touch the sky over here. And it's like, you have to have command over the articulation of your genius and how your work works. Like, there's this balance of like, you know, following your intuition, being in your power, et cetera, with this like next level command over your articulation of your genius to where it's like someone puts you on a stage tomorrow and you're fucking solid. You know what I mean? And so when we think about, like, I feel like that's something that people often, when they come to me too, we like work on and strengthen because I'm like, well, like we, in addition to like, yes, our it factor and our vibes and all the things, but it's like for people to really see you, like you have to actually be able to articulate, like, where are we going? Like, what is the vision? What is your methodology? Not just that you get your clients results, but like, how do you do it? And it's not that we need to like live there in our content, but I feel like this was something that was potentially new to you too, where it's like, we do want to be able to like articulate our process, like in our brand and also in our offers, because like I always say, like there's lots of us selling roughly the same thing. So like, and there's the people where they don't care if they've learned it 10 times from someone else, like they want to learn it from you, but that doesn't exclusively happen just because of your vibe.
No, the articulation, I think, was like probably one of the big, if not the biggest thing, like the articulation, but also like the level of articulation at this level, I think, as well, versus the level of
Yeah,
articulation you might have
at
at like
50K
a class
months
or
or
yeah,
whatever.
it's just different, the kind of specificity you need.
And it can feel like a stretch. Like when I
Yeah.
look at how I communicated at like 30K months, I'm like, that's cute.
I think I even said that to you. I'm like, when I think about how I used to, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like, look at her little business. So cute.
Look at her little business. And don't get me wrong, it's a flex, but like I shared on social media yesterday, because like one of my friends who I follow, like she had said something about it. I was like, this is the truest thing in the world, where it's like people make a little money and then all of a sudden, because they're not actually tuned into the next level, they'll like dip out of mentorship, take a break, think they've learned everything they need to know. I'm like, you're having 20K months. Are you insane? And like this is that it's like that 20 to 30K month mark where I see people kind of get like, they just assume they know everything and they just need to keep doing what they're already doing. And I'm like, this showcases your naivete around company growth, right? So even for me, it's like, okay, cool. I don't even value just that, like, I know how to hit a number, but I'm like, okay, but can you hit it without proximity? Can you hit it off low ticket? Can you, right? It's like, and it's not about having to do things a certain way, but to me, it's like a skill set. I'm like, what kind of business owner am I if I only know one tune to make money? What about being in a life circumstance where that tune wears out? What about when, like, you didn't have 3 people come paying full for your mastermind this month and then you don't know how to make the money anymore? Like, I'm not gonna be living that life, right? And so a lot of times the way we're making money earlier too is like, yeah, it works, but it's like, could you actually 10 times that and that would work? And then like, do you have, and even the languaging difference, and I know we've talked about between like, and I know because I've like focused on all, where it's like I used to be mostly high ticket, then I brought in mid ticket, then I started scaling a lot off low ticket. And it's like I've had to have, like, first of all, selling all 3 is very different. And then it's like, but people don't even realize, right? And I'm like, there's a reason only 10 people are in your masterclass. It's not just you need to be in the vibes more. Like, let's actually look at like you know what I mean, how we're positioning the offers. And when we think about like big business vibes, it's interesting because there's just this level of like, if you think about any large company, personal brand, there's this ability to like, yes, be captivating, but to also deliver the information in such a simple way that like the masses can be like, got it, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes people get so focused on trying to be interesting that actually like they're losing I'm not saying this is you. I'm just having general conversations. It's not what you were doing. But like, it's like people like lose people and don't realize the value of being able to sell to a very wide net while also having certain type. Like there's conversations I have on the internet that I know are going to mostly speak to my proximity clients. Like I'm aware of that. But it's like, are you even aware of the conversation you're having and the results that it would yield? And I think the answer is no for a lot of people. They're just like talking about what's interesting. Whereas for me, when I show up, I know the difference between what's going to have someone be interested in proximity with me and what's going to have somebody be interested in a scalable offer. Like they're very different.
And I think people don't understand how different they are. But if they're like, oh yeah, it's different, they actually don't put the work, not that it's work because it can be light, but to actually learn the skill set of the different ones and develop that skill set, because it's not, like you said, what got you there is not going to get you to the next level. I can tell you that hands down. Like you're going to need to require more skill sets and to like humble yourself and like be willing to learn that new skill set, even when your mind's like, and you got to learn it. You just got to
And
go.
my mind's going, sometimes, you know what I mean? I'm like, was I just like dancing on fairy clouds before? Like, what? I know. But if that's what you have so much of the like, yay, when it's new, but like, you're not going to feel like, yay, it's new for 10 years. And like, you don't want to have to call on that kind of energy to sell all that. It's like not sustainable and it's not scalable. And you want to ultimately one day be able to bring other people into your brand. Like, you don't want to be like just this one woman show with a team that you just tell them what to do. Like, you need people to be able to like work with your assets, your processes, your frameworks, your articulation, and like help scale your company so that you can also be doing other things like as life just matures, like, and not need to be someone who's like, hey, now I just don't have a business.
Yeah. And obviously, because like we're in your world, we know that it's not like cold DMs or like big live lunches. Like that's not what is scaling like the company. That's not what growing it. Like we all know that, but I think it's also important to know that that's not also not required to grow it. Like there's other things you can do, other levers you can pull that don't require what you maybe think you need to do to grow it.
Well, you find out, I feel like after you get over the mental hurdles, you're like, this is so much easier.
It is. It's just
Like,
you gotta
oh,
like go to practice putting your mind around. Like, okay, but once you nail it, I mean, I remember we have a discussion. So I was like, once I nailed it, there was like, and it would fly in. I was like, okay, got it.
isn't it so cool? And this is where I'm like, guys, you can get instant results. We just need to
Instant
stick
influence.
instant influence, about that life. And it's like, but haven't you seen it now where it's like, and sometimes it's not that we hit it every single day, but it's like we get better at it and better at it and better at it. And there is something so empowering to know that you know how to turn on the money faucet,
Yeah.
not just through your energy, but to be like, oh, I know what to say. I know how to position it. Okay, boom, they're in. Like that is a skill set you want to have. And obviously to me, that's quote unquote easier with low and mid ticket. Like obviously proximity clients kind of like come when the proximity clients come. But before, I mean, that was pretty much my experience when I was more focused on proximity. You know what I mean? I just don't sell to proximity as often anymore, forward facing. But it's like, to me, knowing that like I know how to position a low ticket offer to get 100 people in the room, I'm like, that's to me, I'm like, this is golden. So now like 6 times that, and imagine what's happening on the back end. And in my mind, the way that I see it, like I shared a post about this yesterday where I was like, okay, cool. Well, if I get 100 people in a masterclass is like, I don't know, financially, probably 2 weeks of one person with me. But I'm like, in our, not just in our environment, but in a business in general, you want like easy to replace and scale income. So if I have my messaging all focused on getting that one person in the room for 2 weeks, then what? Hoping they continue. Like there's so much opportunity cost when we over focus on proximity and then miss the opportunity to be people who can bring 100 people into a masterclass. And that's just the beginning. And then and that's 100 opportunities when you learn how to upsell on the back end to take people through a product suite, because now I know how, where it's like, hey, I sold one thing, but people are buying 4 different things. You know what I mean? And it's not just because I'm like, here's 4 options, right? I had to learn how to like sell people through the pathway on the back end, and not that they can be forced, but it's like you make it desirable. Obviously the work's amazing and they want to. But to me, that skill set takes me so much further than needing to like rely on what one person does. And also I don't want that energy on my private relationships or mastermind relationships. Like, and I know that like my clients are going to be much more drawn to my ability to scale a company than they are to have 25 private clients, because over time they know they want an actual company.
Yeah, 100%. And like you
So
said, with
I'm,
like the journey as well, that I think is also important in terms of like what we did of like making sure that the offer suite like makes sense. Like they know where they're going afterwards. Like there's a clear program differentiation. Like we know where we're going. It's all like separate versus before. I feel like it was a bit not as seamless as it was after you were in.
yeah. Well, and I think what's so cool too, because like I'm very, and yeah, like I have a very strategic brain, but as you know, like I'm also very energetic. A lot of my offers are done. Now there's like kind of half and half with the strategic offers and the energetic ones. But I think it's especially interesting as well too, because I would put your work in kind of like the energetic category, where it's like, then what's interesting, and I know we worked a lot on this, is like, hey, well, we have to take what you do energetically and basically like make it tangible. Do you know what I mean? Because we need to be able to scale energetic work. And because I sell both, like I understand the difference. And my energetic work made me like millions of dollars. So like no one think, like I think people have this misconception that if you don't sell tangible work in the way of like a strategy or whatever, that it's hard. Like that's absolutely not true. There's people making 8 figures with energetic work, but it's about the mastery over the articulation so that everything doesn't just sound the same. Because then we've got a lineup of like 6, 7, 8 containers, and really like zeroing those in. And then also again, like bringing that thought leadership to your energy, in your case, nervous system and energetic work, where it's like, people get, we're not talking about vibing on life. Like we are strategically speaking about energetics. And I feel like that's something that you like strengthened as well, that I think is like important for my audience to hear, where there's so many like spiritual, most of my clients are not doing like business strategy as an example. Like some do, right? But I have like, most of them are kind of like, take, even if they're in business, it's other angles of business, right? Or, doing other things. But I think it's important to know too, that like energetic work is absolutely, I mean, it's some of the deepest, most powerful work, and there's no limitation on it, but it's like, we have to learn how to successfully market it and to differentiate you, just like we do, even if your work is strategic. But I think that people have more stories on the energetic side. And I think a lot of spiritual women don't have a lot of practice, like bringing their work into the 3D to where lots of people are like, okay, boom, I'm in. Like it is a skill set.
Oh, 100%. And even being able to like really clearly, like you said, yes, differentiate it, but like, what does that actually look like? And I can still hear like your voices of like the things you'd always prompt me. Even now, I was working on stuff this morning. I can hear Jocelyn just like those same questions. I'm like, yes, yeah, like it's ingrained in me now. Now I know, like, and it becomes easier because like the question is naturally, all right. I know how to check it like more myself, where I can run through like, all right,
Yeah.
are all the boxes there in terms of like how we articulate this.
And that's the point too, because I'm saying like, we're not going to be like, it's never to feel like you have to like check boxes. It's like you're just learning how to be more strategic, and then ultimately it becomes natural. It was like, as I pivoted even my content style, I mean, I've pivoted even like my business model, right? And it's like, okay, cool. Oh, we're just like doing things differently. And then eventually it just becomes how you think, like sort of like how we practice anything else. And then it's just a habit. You don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, it's not like a boxes or I'm like following your exact framework, but it's very much like teaching me that skill set so that my brain naturally knows how to market things differently, how to sell things differently, how to position different offers, how to be clear one versus the other. Because before that, I did have people being like, okay, but what's the difference between this and this? Right. Versus now it's clear. Now I don't get those questions anymore.
Oh
No
my God,
fun.
that makes me so happy.
It's clear.
It's clear. But like, and I think, you know, and I feel like it was a little bit of a thing for you to get your head around it. And I'd be like, hey, but we're talking to business owners. So we need to like, do you know what I mean? Like now have this show up differently. And I think too, people get confused. I'm like, you don't even really, you know, it's not that you have to change what you do in the container. It's literally positioning. And
Which I
that's
kind of like already knew. Like I knew I just needed to bring like the words to it because like I would see that that's what we would do, but I wasn't articulating the actual thing we were doing, like the result for business
yeah.
owner. Yeah.
And like, it's just, and this is where the power, I'm like, if you can like live in that dream client's head, you are going to have such an easy time in business. And there's phases where like, I feel like I even wrote a post, like kind of contradicting what I just said maybe a year ago, where I'm like, I don't, what did I say? Of course it was sassy, Jocelyn. I was like, I don't speak to what my dream clients are thinking about. I speak to what they need to be thinking about.
I love it.
Which is still actually true.
You do, but like you say, this is what you're thinking about, and then you say, but this is what you need to be thinking about. So like now you kind of
Right.
like do both and you bring it back.
Right. But I used to just like do, you know what I mean? It was like, but this is where I've matured too, right? There was so much on like, yes, my strategic brain and like, you know, you guys always reflect back to me. It's really that bridge of the strategy and the energetics that you love. But like, there was also a lot of like writing on a very bold, truthful personality backed up by solid work. But like, I was like, we got to have other ways to bring people in the door. This needs to be more strategic, not being like, so yes, heavy. I'm a personal brand 100% and heavy on the personal brand. But like, we need to balance that out strategically to scale this company.
Yeah.
Because if you look at big brands, big personal brands, it's always there. It's not like vague. You like once you have the eye for it, it was so funny. One of the women who's in 89 now, she was like, you should launch a whole masterclass, like teaching people how to see the strategy in other people's brands. Cause like it's something I see very easily. And people will be like, they don't have one. I'm like, they absolutely do. This is what's happening. But you're looking at things from the place of being the consumer, not from the place of business. You know, they're very different.
Oh, I agree 100%. I see it now. Now that I understand this, like I see it, I'm like, oh, I see it from a completely different lens. It's
And
funny.
it's really empowering. It changes your brain. And what I love too is then you no longer feel like you're just kind of like, I don't know if you ever used to feel this way in your company. I definitely did, probably when I was at like the 50K month mark, where it was like, I legitimately did not know what I didn't know. And like, I didn't know what else I was supposed to be doing.
Well, I feel
And
like
I
I
will say I
didn't
did
know.
not have strategic mentorship. Not like I had earlier, then I didn't for a while. And then I like went back and things started to get a lot more clear. Um, Meaning I was like focused on other things that definitely got me to 50K months. But yeah, I totally remember just being like, I literally just like didn't know.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. So you have to get yourself in the room to figure out what it is you don't know.
Yeah.
And I just like always been a proponent of like, oh, I know where I want to go. So I have to put myself in the room that's gonna like help me get there. Cause I don't know what I don't know until someone like you've given me so many ahas. I remember our first VIP call within like 5 minutes. I was like, oh shoot, I've been doing that. And we cleaned that up fast. But like you don't know until someone else points that out.
Yeah. And this is why, like, I'm so passionate about my own evolution as well, because it's like, I want to always, yes, of course, I have a lot of mastery, but it's like, I'm always going to be deepening my mastery as well and trying new things and being experimental and allowing myself to scale in different ways, because it's like, I'm not going to be like you know what I mean? One tune with my clients where it's like, well, I don't know if you don't do it exactly like how I do it. I have no idea. Like, that is not business mentorship.
Which I really, again, like about you. I don't think we've ever touched on this. It's not like a simple regurgitate, do exactly how I do in order to get the same thing, which
Yeah.
is like super powerful. Because I know that
That
there's
does not
spaces where
work.
that happens, where it's like replicate exactly what I did, but you may not have the same results by just replicating step by step someone else of what they exactly did.
And this is why to me, it's all, well, one, like, you know, I had like 15 years of marketing and sales experience before my company that I also feel like, you know, just showed me in terms of scaling a number of different types of brands, right? And even when we all have service based or my client, like, but I've had clients who are business to business, what I have them focus on is very different. You know what I mean? They're speaking to a different environment and copy paste. Like, we take things, we take frameworks, but we have to be able to make them their own. And like something that's really important to me as a mentor is explaining why we're doing what we're doing, because that's how you actually become very smart at like leading yourself, not just when you do to do and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Like,
Hence
I
why I
think,
would ask you, I like to ask you, like, why do you do this? I saw you did this. Why? Because I want to understand.
I mean, that's those are the kind of questions I ask as well. And I think they're some of the best questions. And then, but some people are just like, oh, I saw so and so do this, I'm just gonna go do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, but until you learn why on every single thing you do, even challenging yourself to like, let's say you make and I've done this, like an intuitive move in your business that yields whatever result, and you just knew to follow the pull. I still will then, even when I got this certain result, I don't just go, oh, I got a result. Keep following my intuition. I'm like, why did I get that result? Let's pick it apart. The whole business can't be intuitively led. We need to be able to repeat results, expand results, quantum leap results. So we need to be very clear on what's working. And then I will also say, like, something can work in for someone else's energy for their audience, kind of how they've trained their audience to buy all these different things that won't work in someone else's business. It will work really well for them. So it's like, we got to know our own energy. We got to know where we're at with our audience and how we've trained them. And like, there's just so many different factors. So we can like take one concept, but then we need to like massage it for like where you're at in business, for how your audience's relationship to you, like where you are with your authority, and like all of these different things to like really make it work. But like, to me, that feels so much more relieving than those eras where I was like, I don't know. I actually don't know. Like, now I feel like I always know, like literally always. And it might be like, oh, I'm just getting better at this part, but I never feel like there's no direction or I'm not clear on how we're getting where we're going next.
Which brings a lot of safety, like to your nervous system. There we go, tying your nervous system. But like your nervous system feels so much more grounded.
Like
Like
feeling you're,
knowing where you're going, having like that understanding versus being off in the wind and like following your intuition. Well, yeah, if you don't know how to repeat results, if you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, how is that going to feel safe to your system?
it
Like
doesn't. And this is where like,
exactly. And then people like, no wonder you're feeling dysregulated because you're just like following the pulls, not understanding, not pulling the threads apart, not looking forward, not understanding. So yeah.
and then it's like, that's where I think feminine business goes too far.
Yeah. Follow the impulse, launch this offer, do this thing. It's like, does it actually make sense?
Yeah, like how I'm always like, yeah, I use my intuitive brain and then I back it up with my logical one to make sure I'm doing things that make sense, that scale my company. So I don't just end up with this like hodgepodge business that I don't know how to double and triple.
Yeah.
Just like not about that life. And I'm like, to me, a feminine business is still a highly strategic business, because then you can just fucking relax.
Yeah.
You know how
And I
much
think people
easier it
don't
is
realize
to,
that the relaxation comes from like having enough of that strategy and structure.
it's sort of like if you're attracted, you know, to a more masculine partner, you feel a lot more secure when he's in his masculine than when he's not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the same vibe. I'm always like, the business is there to support you. Do you know what I mean? Not like you're like pulling along the business.
Mm-hmm.
And it should really have that energy. And that's what we want to be working towards. And I just like, it's so interesting. I heard someone say a quote, because you know how we're taught like not to worry about the destination. And then someone shared, oh, where did I hear it? I can't remember, but they were talking about like wildly successful people. I'm sure this doesn't apply to everybody, but I just like love the concept. And they were like, yeah, part of what gets them there so fast is they know the destination. They know exactly where they're going. They've already decided. It's not just like, do you know what I mean? It's like, this is where I'm going. And so you're actually working towards something. And I know people kind of have like that accidental success vibe happens, but if they don't do the personal work, it doesn't last long.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the one hit wonder vibes before, or collapsing under, you know, we see this in the celebrity world, like collapsing under addiction, gambling, you know what I mean? Like all of these other things where everything's coming at a cost. But I think there's something really powerful. And like, I feel so much more empowered in my business once I've like seen a light, even if it's around like a model that I desire to evolve into. I'm like, that's where I'm going. Now I know what to do. Now I know to focus, off to the races, because people think, I'm like, you think you're going to hit those high, once you hit the high number that you're desiring to have now, that like everything's going to be golden, is not. Like they're sustaining it, they're scaling it, you know, doing it again, but easier. Do you know what I mean? Just like the things that it comes with from a leadership perspective, people perceiving you differently, all the different things. And so it's really like a video game. It's never ending. And like, to me, that's actually fun. And like, there's texture to life and business and money. And like, imagine where we can all be like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. Like, it's crazy, but we need to like not get ignorant in terms of what it takes to scale a company, and making sure we're focused on that, and like not getting so distracted, like what I call quote unquote distracted by personal development, to where everything's about like, we're like shadow hunting, we're trying to unwind 6,000 limiting beliefs. I'm like, you could do that. Like, how do you, like, to me, it's like, and the thing is, I say that because but I also really value that work. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'm not sitting around digging for personal problems. It's like the things that need to be addressed will show themselves to you. Like, it won't be confusing if you're in a self-aware human. And like, you'll feel where there's edges, and it's like, hey, well, what's this edge about? What's this resistance about? Whatever. And it's like, can we be people who do personal development and business development like side by side, and make that a standard? And this is not an issue for you at all, obviously. I'm just like speaking about it generally, because I think like people start going the right direction, and then they're like, I need to go heal for a year. I'm like, heal what? Like, do that, not heal what, like you might need to, but it's like you can't even, you don't even have the opportunity for it to land in your business, when then you're like, oh my God, I can't have a business, I'm not growing the business anymore because I'm going this other journey. And it's like, can we be people who can do two things at once? Because even if it's not this, it's going to be required of you in other ways.
This is why I love you, because I couldn't agree more. But like, this is literally why I love you, because my brain thinks the exact same way. I'm like, how you need to be like, we have to be people who can do both.
Like, it's just required.
And not look for problems, and not get distracted. Like the distraction that you see, like, I don't know. I feel like people very much get distracted.
And they don't know they're distracted. They're so dysregulated. They don't understand that they're distracted. It's so wild. It's like, in a way, like I always say, I'm like, business is simple, success is simple, money is simple, but humans are so complicated.
You make it complicated.
We have to opt out of not being so complicated, so that we can like land the simplicity of, because the other thing too is like, if you're constantly like overwhelmed and overthinking and having power drops and blah, 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 these adjustments that we need to make feel really stressful, really stressful. Whereas like, if you're just chill, you're like, oh, okay, like I see where this is going. Let me just go try it. And I don't care if people don't respond to this post, I'll write another one tomorrow. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, cool, moving it along. And people will be like, oh my God, nobody commented, this is the end of my life. Or like, I'm scared to do this because what if they don't respond? I'm like, well, again, welcome to entrepreneurship. Like,
Yes, like you don't need instant validation, but also we can have instant influence, right?
we can have instant influence and change.
Well, we don't need the
But it's
validation, but we also can create the powerful messaging where we get paid right away.
exactly. And you know, I'm about that life, but I'm like, but for me to create that, I had to go at it a few times to where I'm like, ooh, that didn't land the way that I wanted to. And it's not like every single post I write, every single thing yields the exact result. But it's like I've been at it enough where like most of them do yield exactly. You know what I mean? I'm like, cool. Like, how amazing is it to know how to write one post and get all these people in the door off one post? Like, this is life, not just like sharing about how I feel. And then I only sell in my stories. I'm like, everybody's not watching your stories. Why wouldn't you make all the money off your feed and all the money in your stories? Like, that makes perfect sense to me.
No, it does. Instead of getting like distracted by everything else, that you
And
can't
like
actually
needing,
like tap into that.
right. Or like just needing to share everything emotion that's going on behind the scene and distracting your audience from paying you.
So
But
true.
you do not have these issues. So everybody be like Liv, just solid as fuck is the only way I know how to describe it. Like, you are truly like, what you see from you in social media is exactly who you are behind the scenes. Like, and your levels of embodiment and integrity are just like through the roof. And you're just obviously someone who's done the work. I imagine that you were very different 10 years ago.
100%. Probably even like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's built. I think people think, you're born that way. Like, no, this was built. My nervous system wasn't always like this. My mindset wasn't always like this. My skill set wasn't always like this. Like I had to learn it all. I built it all.
And
So
you
like it's
came from like a medical environment to like building a personal brand. Like they could not be. One is like do exactly as you're told, only say this, only say that. Like you basically get rewarded for staying in the box. And then when it comes to being a personal brand, you have to like create your whole entire energy from like a movement. It's just they're wildly different spaces.
yeah.
So it's so cool.
Thank
Okay, well, I have loved this chat. What would you say to anyone who is considering coming into Fempire, or you were an 888 or Overflow or any other space in my world who hasn't made a move yet?
Just do it. It's unmatched.
Do it, it's unmatched.
Give yourself the gift. No, but like actually give yourself the gift of being so supported that deeply where you actually feel even like better and more chill than you ever could. Like I was always chill, but like this is a new level of more chill because I allow myself to be supported by putting myself in the room that's gonna like leverage the skills. So like, and it's not that scary. If anyone thinks maybe it's like gonna be scary that they're gonna be challenged like way too much and they can't hold it, I don't know. Choose your hard, but come in anyway. Like become the human, but it's not that scary.
No, it's not. But I feel the same. It's just I just love like that I love tangible answers to questions. I just really love a tangible answer. I mean, I have a strategic and energetic answer to everything. Although I feel like you're very energetically solid. I mean, your questions tend to be more strategic. But yeah, guys, come play. You'll be blown away. The number of times I've heard that people are like, oh, this is what business coaching is. I'm like, yeah.
Leave your ego at the door and walk in. That's all I have to say. Like
Yeah.
prepare to like humble yourself. Don't make stories. Don't get into victim. Leave that at the door and come in if you actually want to like grow and scale a business, like a company, not a consultancy.
You're like, which I learned from Jocelyn.
Yes. Which I learned from Jocelyn.
We
Yeah.
were doing high level consulting vibes. Okay, we're going to switch the tune a little bit. And you still get to have all your proximity clients. I'm just saying, let's have them from Overflow and not like the
Not
core
needing them to make the
thing.
months. Yeah.
And I love for me, because I don't need to have, 15 people in my biggest mastermind. It's like, I love that I have the time to this space where it's like I can actually pay attention. Do you know what I mean? And not just give everybody a 30-second answer just to get through the chat. Like that doesn't feel good to me. And so just because like I prefer, I don't know, I like being in my clients' businesses. So it's funny because it's like on the one hand, I'm like owner vibes, full scalability, but what that allows for me in proximity is the level of support that I desire to give in proximity versus like, oh, just come over here because I make a lot of money and just here's your 2-second answer. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like not into that vibe.
Yeah. No, you're not at all. Like it's deep. Like I said, it's deep.
Because we don't, and I don't want to be mentored like that. I'm like, are you kidding? No one needs to pay just to be there. Like, what are we doing when we get there?
I love you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Liv. So how can the people, I'm sure there'll be people who are interested in working with you because you're the vibe. So how can they get in touch? What are the different ways to check you out?
I would say come over to Instagram at Keep Up with Liv. I also have a podcast called the Live Well Podcast. And those are probably the two best ways if you want to like get a sense of my energy, my vibe more, listen to the podcast, and then also come over to Instagram.
Amazing. And then also Liv's links will be inside episode notes. Thank you.
So much for having me.
Yay. Hi, Liv.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
This is so exciting. So Liv is just like such a gem of a human. Before we kind of like dive into everything, I would love if you could just like introduce yourself, like where you're from, what your vibe is, what you do. I like to ask people their like sun, moon, and rising, and your kind of like overall human design things, because you know, my audience likes to profile people.
Well, it's true. I mean, you know so much about someone as soon as they say all that. So like I get it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
My name's Liv. I'm a nervous system and wealth energetics expert, really helping women step into not only relaxed nervous system, but really the cup runneth over a full life in all areas, not just your business, but your relationships and everything outside of that. So everything is an overflow. I am a 5-1 self-projected projector, which tells you a lot about that 5-1.
That
And
5-line, baby. We know that one through and through over here.
as soon as you hear a 5-line, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. I am a Sag Sun, Taurus Moon, and Sag Rising. So I got a double Sag.
Why did I think you were a Leo sun?
Do I come off as a Leo Sun? I'm a Sag. I'm a double
Well, I
Sag.
knew it was fire. Okay. Well, you know, I'm a Sag moon. I have lots of Sag. Well, lots of fire, period. Okay, so cool. Now I know. Wait, your Sag sun, what was your rising?
Sag Rising, and then a Taurus Moon. So the Taurus Moon is like my grounded, really loving the aesthetics of life, which I do. Like my Taurus Moon we love luxury, we love vibes, hence why I love you. I don't know. We resonate on the same kind of level. So yeah, the Taurus Moon.
And you
kind
know
of,
my Venus is in Taurus. Or why would you know that? Now you know my Venus
now I
is in
know.
Taurus.
Oh, okay.
So it's always, whenever I hear a client's like profile, I'm like, it's always meant to be. It's always so clear, no matter whether they kind of like have some similar placements or it's like opposite to me and kind of like wanting to activate more of that in. Like, it's so cool to like know these things about people.
Well, it's definitely why I love your fire. 100%. It's like fire meets fire.
I mean, you know, I like that vibe too. So good. Okay. So how did you get into like what you do today? Like, what is a little bit of just like your human backstory and how you wound up in your business? I'm not even sure. When did you start your business?
2020.
Okay.
Like right at
So
the start of the pandemic.
yeah.
Right at the
Same.
start. I feel like I've lived lifetime, so I'm gonna condense it because I feel like what I've explained might be like 50 years in someone else's life. So yeah, I started my business in 2020 after graduating from naturopathic school, writing my board exams, kind of finishing all of that. But I definitely knew that I didn't want to go the in-person private practice route where you just see one-on-one people all day. I had done that for my clinical placement. So I already knew that that was like draining and the income cap. And I was just like, I'm not here for an income cap where I'm just seeing one-on-one patients. So I already knew off the bat that I wasn't going to go into that more traditional route. So based on the fact that I had been sharing healthy recipes and health tips all throughout my journey, I moved into like helping people through online, through like different programs with healthy eating, cutting out gluten, cutting out sugar, balancing their hormones, and doing a lot of that. And then it was through that that I actually realized that it goes so much deeper than just, yes, supplements are great. We want to be eating right. But all of the emotional nervous system stuff that actually affects physical health way beyond what we realize. And that was because I had come from 10 years of chronic symptoms, fatigue, acne, PMS, PCOS, like you name it, heart palpitations. I would pass out in school. Like I remember passing out in the middle of school several times. Like there's so
Wow.
much going on. And that made me want to become a naturopath so I could heal it. And it got better, but it never fully resolved. And so I was like, my one line in human design, like, there's an answer here. Like, let's figure something out. So I'm always someone who wants to like dive deeper. And I was like, okay, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, no seed oils. I move my body. I do this. Like, why do I still have all these symptoms? Like, it doesn't actually make sense. I've been doing all the things, all the protocols, IVs, cleanses, parasites, detoxes. I mean, you name it, I'd done it. And then I was exposed to the world of trauma healing and the fact that we have trauma in our bodies and emotions get stuck and they're stored in our system. And I felt like, wow, the clouds kind of parted. And I was like, this is amazing, because once I did that, I feel like I finally discovered the missing piece as to the fact that our health isn't just physical. There's also the emotional, energetic component. So I feel like that opened me up. I brought that kind of into my world and the work that I did with people in terms of like the energetic root cause of this, the emotional root cause of this. Like it's the conflict from your dad. It's, the stuff you have with your mom. It's the anger you have built up. It's your lack of self-worth. And it was actually through working through all of my traumas that my symptoms dissolved within a few weeks, like less than a month, 2 to 3 weeks. And they never came back. And I was like, oh my God, why did I not learn this in naturopathic school? Why is no one talking about this? And I decided to really bridge together all of like my knowledge with like supplements and medicinals and all of those wonderful things with also nourishing your emotional and energetic body and taking care of your nervous system. So I did that for a few years, maybe until last year, until we got into you brought into my world. We went into Jocelyn's world. And through that, I really fell in love even more, not just with how the nervous system affected your health, because by then, once I'd resolved my symptoms, I was like, what else? And I discovered how the nervous system literally rules your life. It rules your relationships. It rules how much money you make, the success you have in your business. Yes, your body, but it's your response, to friendships. It's your response to a potential mate, like everything. I was like, wow, I'm like, this is the answer to everything. So then from there, I was like, I don't want to just help someone. Yes, their nervous system can make them not feel bloated anymore, but it's also going to make you a lot of money. You're going to heal your money shit. It's also going to give you the most like nourishing relationship because you're not going to be anxiously attached anymore. So you'll actually be able to receive that. And I was like, oh my God, nervous system is key. That's what I want to do. Everyone with their nervous system. So we did that. And then most recently, we've kind of pivoted and focused and really realized that I'm ready to step away from a lot of like the health stuff. And, it was great when I did it, but now I really want to help women beyond that. And I was like, there's something more beyond just clearing your symptoms. I remember when I was exposed to something beyond clearing your symptoms, where that's no longer the biggest thing, but it's like the money that's available, the wealth that's available, the joy that's available, the relaxation that's available, the relationships that are available, everything else that's also available beyond just that. And so that's what we've kind of pivoted into in 2024.
I love it. This is so cool. And it's like, I'm just such a big fan of like these kind of like quote unquote alternative ways of going about like business and wealth creation. And like, we all kind of like have a different place in the market in terms of like what we teach and the way that we teach it. But I think that what you offer is just like so important because, and I think that people sometimes underestimate it and they kind of not underestimate the work, but aren't even necessarily aware to where their nervous system is genuinely running the show and they're calling it something else, or like normalizing anxiety, normalizing not feeling good about yourself, normalizing like, oh, well, it's just hard. I'm an entrepreneur. Or like, and I get that like sometimes we're learning new things and things do feel a little challenging, but there's a difference between like, okay, I'm learning something new and keep going at it versus actually having like a emotional response to anything that is happening in your company. And something that I always say to you, and I've always said, I'm like, your solid power is like embodied on a level that I can think of like two other people where I've ever seen it. Like, it is absolutely your biggest level of embodiment, and it's most people's like biggest work. And it really showcases in your ability to receive mentorship, to try new things, to make pivots, to take feedback, to allow yourself to be like a quote unquote beginner when we're like, okay, I used to do things like this. Oh, wait, we're doing it like this now. Okay, let's just go and see. And like, you don't really tell stories about things. And I really feel like it's a testament to the work. Cause I always say that like, you know, people ask me who moves the fastest and different things like that. I'm like, hey, obviously the people who are open to mentorship, yes, they're consistent and all these different things. And also like obviously doing the tangible things and easy to mentor, but there's also this component of like, they don't need to get on board with the capacity level that is required for being an entrepreneur. Like, most people spend so much time on that and then they don't know why they haven't made millions of dollars. I'm like, you're not even in the ring yet. You know, like, of course not.
No, I agree. Because like they don't realize how much their nervous system like takes them out of the game, right? All those moments where you're getting dysregulated that, you know, you drop your power. And yes, we can get like the feeling in our chest or the lump in our throat, like the somatic responses, but that takes up, yes, so much capacity, but so much time that you spend with that where you could be spending it building your company.
And even the mind stories to me, I'm like, you're not going to have like a calm body and a racing mind.
No, and then you're not going to get clarity. And then we get into like, oh, I can't be creative. I can't do this. And then it just, I feel like when we play in limitations, the limitations tend to stack. Like it's never just one. It's like we tend to like stack them, but we have to
Yeah, I just think it's like such a cool line of work. And then the fact that you've brought it to business owners, because the reality is like we build careers playing in the unknown. It's literally how we do life is one foot in front of the other, opening doors we've never opened. It doesn't really, sometimes, sure, 10 people walk before you, sometimes not, doesn't really matter. You need to move anyway. And so we literally create our existence in the unknown when at its most kind of like rudimentary state, humans desire to kind of like stay the same, even though everything's always changing. Anything that has changed is perceived as lack of safety. And so you really do have to have that internal capacity to keep going. And then also not think that like, oh yeah, just keep going, but I'm gonna be like stressed out and anxious the whole time. Well, like then when is that gonna change?
And then like your energy is contracted even still. So anything that you do is from that contracted, limited space. So then you're not even an open channel to receive the thing that you're pushing and forcing so hard to get anyways.
And I've just seen it so many times. And this is where I'm like, fuck yes to strategy. You know how deeply I believe in it. And I'm like, when you can be a powerful human next to it, is when we actually get results. Like we need to be walking out both of these things like at the same time. And so I just love that you role model like this type of work and how important it is, because and then not just that, it's like, hey, you want to make the money, you want to have the relationship, you want to have the health, like you have to be able to keep your whole life high frequency, like, and also when different things come up. So one